Let me ask you a question. Who is the single busiest, most overworked person in your business? It's you. It's you, right? So here's my follow up question. If you are working so hard, why isn't the business growing faster? Why aren't you getting more money in sooner, bigger amounts? You know, why isn't it growing faster? I'll tell you why. It's because you're not being the engine of the business right now, you're being the bottleneck. It's a famous entrepreneur's trap. It doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur who just landed your first client or if you're a new owner of a newly acquired business with 12 employees. It's the same. The trap is the same. You believe your hard work is the primary driver of success, and so you do everything. You answer customer service emails, you double check invoices, you tinker with website copy, you double think, overthink, and rethink that social media post that's gonna go out. You're doing everything. But in all that doing, it's preventing you from leading. All the time you spend at the $20 an hour task is stealing time from the $1,000 hour task that only you, the owner, can do. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to find your highest value work and finish the cycle of being the bottleneck. I'm going to give you a simple framework that you can use to fire yourself from the jobs you hate so you can finally do the work that you were born to do. Now, the tricky part is that being the bottleneck often feels like the hero. It feels like you're the only one who can save the day. It feels like you're the one who knows how to get it perfect. It feels like you're the one who really makes it happen. um, if this happens to be your finish line style, it's your greatest strength, but it's being misapplied, right? So there's 5 different finish line styles that I work with, and they each are basically superpowers for the people I work with. I mean, they make them near geniuses, right? But if they can't just apply it anywhere and every time. I mean, you're not going to call Superman to, like, I don't know, fix your, bent table leg. It's like that's a misapplication of the superhero. It's like, really? That's what you're calling superhero for? So that's how you got to think of it for yourself. So if if your finish line style is what I call a visionary, your superpower is generating world changing ideas. And you can do this kind of naturally, and people are in awe when you do it, and you're doing it all the time, but you become a bottleneck when you overwhelm your team with new ideas, a big new idea every week, and you never let them finish it. If your finish line style is a polisher, then your superpower is an obsession with quality, which, for the most part is a great thing. But it becomes a bottleneck when you won't let a 95% perfect product go out the door because you need to spend 3 more weeks refining something, an icon, or something that seems minor to people, or even something that you think is major. It's 95% done. Let it go, because you're freezing profits in the name of perfection. If you're an overthinker, your superpower is deep research. You're the person that, like, kind of a walking encyclopedia. You know everything, and a walking, data analysis person. You kind of know all this different information, and you're great at finding more of it. It's like it's never enough. But that's the point. You become a bottleneck when you refuse to make a decision until you have 110% of all the data. You're creating analysis paralysis across the entire company. And if you are a juggler, I mean, these are the people I admire most because I'm what I call a monotasker. But if you're a juggler, you're really good at multitasking. You take on all kinds of tasks and all kinds of things People just ask you randomly something and you're like, yeah, I'll take that on because you're like a genius at being able to handle all the tasks. But you can often become a bottleneck when you're kind of taking on all the tasks and you're getting 60% of them to completion at a certain amount of time. And then you refuse to hand over a single one to someone else who could get it done at 100%. So the first step to fixing the bottleneck is to admitting your superpower. That's kind of easy. It's like it's a superpower, but you got to admit that your superpower is being pointed in the wrong direction. And once you do that, you get to the root cause. So, how do you fire yourself from a job you didn't even know you had? You do it by running a diagnostic on the most important person in your company. That's you. So, I can show you what I mean with a case study of a classic polisher that I've worked with. I worked with this client. His name is Tim. He runs a small, successful software company. He is a classic polisher. His superpower was his obsession with quality. He would, had to make sure that every single thing about the product was like perfect. And he was always kind of in everybody else's mix who's supposed to be doing their job. He's kind of like going and checking up on them, oftentimes, redoing stuff or doing, dusting or doing something that doesn't really need doing. But that's what got him to be the success that he is kind of being part of that. Is being a polisher, so it's hard to understand when to let it go. But in this case, it had become a crippling bottleneck. His team would build a new feature to 95% completion, and then he would swoop in and find just one more thing to tweak. He thought he was ensuring excellence, but what he was actually doing was communicating a soul-crushing message to his team. Your work is never good enough. He was the chief polisher, and his polishing was freezing profits. So we applied a simple 3-step fire yourself framework to fix what Tim was going through. The first step was what we call the 2-color test. So I worked with Tim to go through everything, make a list of every single task he did for 1 week. So, it's hard for him to tell the difference between, this task is like a $20 task and this task is a $1,000 task. He's just doing it all. So I worked with him and we created this list. And then I gave him 2 pens, two highlighters, one green, one red. And I said, go ahead and highlight the task that you 100% know, or $1,000 an hour tasks that only you can do. Tasks that create the future. Tasks that are the foundation of what has to happen in order for success to happen. Those tasks. Highlight those in green. So it was pretty easy for him to do that. Somewhat easy. He started to do some of the others, and I'm like, I'd ask him, how is that one? This particular task that seems like it's a something that an employee can do and not a CEO. Tell me how that one needs to be done by a CEO. So sometimes it might start out he was going to mark it green, but then when we talk it through, he just leave it. And then so the next thing we did with the highlighters, we took the red highlighter and we highlighted all the $20 an hour work, or just work that doesn't take a CEO level to do. And so when we finished that, the visual was a huge gut punch. It was mostly red, right? The diagnosis was undeniable. So the new rule became, quite easily, since he could see it, if it's in the red, if it's highlighted in the red, Tim, you are now forbidden from touching it. So once he started getting that mindset in place, that he's starting to at least understand the difference between the different tasks, that one is a CEO type thing to do and one is just another type of employee can do it. That's a mindset thing, and once it starts sitting in, then we're able to move towards promoting other employees to be the finishers of the jobs. So we identified his lead developer, who was mostly, as many of them were, but she was completely frustrated by the delays. And this is partly because of her skill and her talent. Like, she would get things to, where they're ready to ship, but then Tim would come in and do whatever he was doing. Anyway, this developer's name was Willa, and she was a natural finisher. Like, she didn't play around. She's not have suffer from the same thing that Tim suffered from. So Tim's job now was to officially promote her. This is a crucial step, that you don't just go in and promote them or then to just dump the job on them. Now, this is your job, Willa, go ahead and do it. You formally transfer authority. So the conversation went something like this. He brought Willa into the office and sat her down, and it's like, okay, Willa, I admit I've been a bottleneck, because, admitting the problem is the first step, right? My obsession with polishing is slowing us down and undermining all the great work that you do. I've realized my job is to set the vision, and your job is to get it to across the finish line. So I am officially promoting you to head of product. So from now on, you have the final authority on all product releases. You decide when it's ready to ship. I'll give you my feedback. We had to put some guardrails around that feedback. But he's like, I'll give you my feedback, but the final decision is yours. The new mandate is simple. Ship it. so a conversation like that does two things. It publicly admits, you got a problem, and that builds massive trust. Not even just with Willa, the person who you're like promoting, but with everybody. It's like, okay, he realizes that this has been holding us up. And then it gives your finisher, the one you promoted, and guess what? Everybody else in the company who's been around watching this, they now also get endowed with finishing capabilities. It gives them all the permission and the authority they need to do to actually do their job. So this is with your employees, and this is like, even if you're a solo entrepreneur, it's with people you subcontract out, it's with a VA, it's with even an intern. It's like, it gives them that. So basically, Tim fired himself as the chief polisher and hired Willa to be the chief finisher. And that's how you delegate an outcome, not just a task. So then that brings us to the final and perhaps the hardest part of this framework. It is what we call the 80% rule. So the new rule in the company became, we ship products that are 80% perfect. Now, he was already having trouble with 95% perfect, but now we scaled it back to 80%. This strategy was pioneered by Silicon Valley legends like Eric Rice. He's the author of The Lean Startup. The principle is called the minimal viable product, or the MVP. So you stop trying to build the perfect product based on your own expertise and your own knowledge and your own skills base and your own expert opinion. Instead, you get a valuable version into the customer's hands as quickly as possible, and you get real customer feedback, and you let that dictate what to polish. This is really, for a founder like Tim, this is really like terrifying, right? And I know a lot of founders like Tim, right? Because not only are they, an experts in their field, but I mean, it's in them. It's their life. They understand this problem and the solution so deeply, and they feel like they do a lot of research. They do a lot of customer research because they watch customers. They listen to customers or potential customers. They're in the industry. They're in the field really deep, and they feel They know everything they need to know to make the perfect product that solves this. And a part of me is like, that's 100% correct. You probably do. Here's the problem: your customers are not perfect. They are not perfect. So, a perfect solution, a perfect product for the solution is not necessarily going to be perfect for them. So this really starts to show up in your sales, right? Because you might have the exact perfect product that is the perfect solution to such and such problem, but if the customers don't recognize it as that, your sales suffer, and guess what? They don't get that great solution. So you have to build it with them. You you have this identity that's wrapped up in being the guardian of quality, but letting go of that, of course, feels like a loss. But and it brings up this deep fear. And it also makes you feel sort of like, if I'm not the one doing this work to bring it to perfection, what's my value here? So that's the final bottleneck you must break. That's the mindset, that belief that your value comes in the doing and then the perfecting. Once you break that, because it doesn't, right? Your true value comes in being the founder, comes from being the deciding, not the doer, not the worker, not the polisher. From deciding and setting the vision and creating conditions for people like Willa to do their best work. Your job isn't to polish the product, it's to build the machine that polishes the product. So letting go of all those red tasks feels like you're giving up control, but what you're actually doing is getting back something that's infinitely more valuable: the time and the mental space to do the work that will actually grow the business. So, in this case study, in the end, the team shipped the new update within 3 weeks and revenue jumped 15% that quarter. Tim was promoted back to being the CEO and doing only the $1,000 task that only a CEO can do. So, if your business cannot grow because you're the one holding it back, you need to run the two-color test on your own work week. Find the red task, find your Willa, give them the authority to finish and ship, right? So the first step on getting clear on what's truly important, that's is getting clear. The first step is getting clear on what's truly important. So that's why I've created the free PDF, the Legacy Loop Diagnostic Kit. While I designed it to help you find find the valuable assets in your team, the questions inside this diagnostic kit will help you also diagnose where you are spending your time. It is the perfect first step to finding your highest value work. So you can download it for free. It's the first link in the description below the video. And you go ahead and you get this kit and you use it and you stop being the bottleneck in your business. Thanks for watching.